Hail, hail, and welcome to the Temporary Stand podcast, and it's number 25 for the year, so we're fair rattling through. This week, Marty and Scott return and are joined by Conor and Johnser as the lads sit down to discuss the weekend's draw with Hibs. After a pretty comprehensive roundup, we'll take a look at the Champions League draw, pondering over our hopes for the group, and then we finish off with having a wee discussion about the closing of the transfer window and Celtics' participation in the day's events. So, hope you enjoy it. Nothing left but see you on the other side.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to Temporary Stand podcast number 25. Tonight, quarter of a century of podcast, lads. Well done. Tonight I'm joined by, as ever, the evergreen Scott in Glasgow. How you doing, Scott?
How are you, gents? I'm alright, Marty.
And from North County Dublin, the Bell, Conor. How's the form, bro?
Great, not a bother. Good evening.
Some holding sort of southeast Antrim. John, how are you?
I'm Grant. How are you?
Don't sound grand. Anyway, moving swiftly into yesterday's game, 2-2 draw with Hibs at home. Scott, a much changed lineup, mostly I suppose forced by injury, but with lots of young faces. What was your reaction when you saw the team sheet flash up on the big screen?
Happy enough. I was happy enough. We've been talking all week. We want to see what in the team. Towards it was kind of impressive last week, so he deserves his start. You're a wee bit concerned at the defence for missing Mulgrew and Ron yet again, and that's a wee bit concerning because the whole Lustig thing isn't going to go away. As far as I'm concerned, the boy doesn't look like it. And we'll come on to it later. Certainly about the goals and stuff when he scored and stuff. But with regards to the team, I've got no complaints about it.
Fair enough. John, Scott mentioned Tony Watt there getting a start. Were you happy to see Tony on the, getting us a full run out for the 90 minutes?
Yeah, I was delighted to see Tony get a start. Thought he merited it. He's been playing well, very well as of recently. Unfortunately, yesterday it didn't work out for Tony. He huffed and puffed, but nothing happened. He had one really good chance, which it was very similar to his goal against Inverness, only on the other side of the field. But unfortunately, he knocked it wide. He wasn't really that impressive. Neil Lennon said after the game that, like any typical young guy, they have their up and down in terms of form. It's hard to get consistency from them, and I think that's really what we've seen from Tony Watt yesterday.
And Conor, I suppose I was watching the match and sort of tweeting and watching what was happening on Twitter, but at the end of the match, some of the reaction of some of our fans was, I suppose, just fury. There was real rage at many of the fans that had drop points at home. Were you in the least bit concerned, or do you think there is cause for concern?
No, absolutely not. I don't think there's any cause for concern. And if fans are booing at the end of the match, quite frankly, they need to get a grip, especially after the week the club has gone through, especially qualifying for Champions League. The last time he was on, it said the importance of qualifying for the Champions League. That was achieved. And I also alluded to the fact that Neil Lennon should be bringing through these crop of youngsters are just bubbling under. So if we have players who are injured and we're looking at longer term into the group phase now, you need to rest those guys up, and then you need to be blooding through the young guys. I'm just looking at the bench yesterday. It's Slane, McGregor, Chalmers, Fraser, Irvine. That's good. And you put in Forrest, Watt got a game as well, and young Torzig as well. So, 2-2, it's valuable SPL first game experience for a lot of those guys. The big goal on Wednesday night was achieved, so I think we're undefeated still in the SPL, and as we said before, the pressure's really off in terms of the league campaign, because if we slip and we put our mind to it, we'll just rack off the wins that'll just get us back to the top of it. And let's be frank about it, the pressure having to win absolutely every game this season is not there. So use the opportunities to rest up with injuries and blood the youngsters.
Marty,
fair enough.
Marty, I see this as Scott, right? I don't see it as temporary stand. There's some arseholes in our Celtic support. We've known this. Everybody knows this, right? They're clueless arseholes as well. And I'm not putting myself up as a Uber Tim, I'm the man, I know everything about football, but I obviously don't, right? But there's some clowns out there. we've got to understand. We're putting these young guys in because people demand it. Everybody's going, well, it'd be good to get these young guys in. It'd be good, but they don't seem to want to allow these guys to progress and learn. It's almost coming back to the same thing about Neil Lennon. Nobody allowed Neil Lennon to learn his job. He's basically just got to get it good, or he's not good enough. I mean, and these young guys have come in, and they're trying, right? Don't get me wrong, I'm not sitting here and I'm going to defend these guys. Because, see, to be honest, Tony Watt missed that chance. Know what I mean? And that was bad. Twarzik never hit the target in the second half and were 2 each. That's bad, right? If these boys want to take all the credit, they've got to get criticised. Because that wasn't a case of the big stage and, you can tell by his tender years. That's bad play, missing that. And Neil Lennon's got every right to be really pissed off about it. But some of the Celtic supporters need to wise up. They really need to wise up. Do they want us to play the same 11 every week and week and week and week, and then we go and play Spartak Moscow in the second half of we're knackered and stuff? They've got to wise up. The Celtic supporters got to wise up. I don't want them sitting there clapping anything, right? I don't really want to get to that level of support where anything can happen on the pitch and we'll clap it. But
so, Scott, are you saying there that the guys that actually played, so the likes of Twarzik and Watt, it's not an excuse their 10 years for putting in poor performances? Or do you not think it's a building experience where like you're going to get that with young players? You'll get a great impact scenario like Tony Watt in a couple of his games, or Twarzik last week up in Inverness, and then the next week you're just going to have that inconsistency, and maybe that inconsistency has dogged the team last year, especially at home where our performances were patchy but were much better away from home. So do you think it's the crowd?
But mate, see, to be honest though, that's what makes a top. That's the difference between a player with good potential and a good player. Right, Aidan McGeady came in and played at a very high level when he first came into the team, consistently. Right, all the years he kind of the support once again. Maybe a few of them turned on him. Right, but see, to be perfectly honest, that's what makes guys like Lionel Messi come in the team and perform. I'm never comparing Lionel Messi, but what I'm saying is he was trusted to come in and do a job. Tony Watt should be better than that. Right? And see if Tony Watt gets bullied off the ball, that's down to his age. Maybe that's down to the fact that he's never had that. But you tell me Tony Watt's no been 1-on-1 with a keeper. Obviously, he's coming in at an angle, right? I'll give him that. But Tony Watt's coming in there. He's got to be doing better. He's got to be hitting the target, right? And if we want to give Tony Watt credit for being direct 1 week, we've got to kind of rightfully say to him, big man, that's no good enough for next week. I mean, the age doesn't matter to me, mate.
Martin, you said 2 weeks ago that the guy seems to suffer from persecution complex or a lack of confidence.
You blaming me?
No, I'm not blaming you for that. No.
No, well, I would just like to point out that Scott's Celtic Crazies rant was not sponsored by the Scottish Sun. But just I suppose to pick up on the not really to focus on Tony Watt, but to look generally at the squad. Conor read out the subs bench. It was an extremely youthful squad. We saw, we'll come to this later on, but we saw Lennon bringing in some experience up front, older players over the course of the transfer window, as well as a couple of young players too. But, players like Jackson Irvine and people like that, they'll probably get a bit more freedom this year to make mistakes. And surely, at their tender age, it's as well they're making them now and not at the end of the season. John, is that how you're feeling? Or,
I mean, there's a
if you were Neil Lennon, would you be throwing teacups at them?
No, I wouldn't. I think there's a time and place for criticism, and it's not Celtic Park for the most part. Of course, there's rare exceptions, but for the most part, people would know that I rant and rave on the huddle board. But, I mean, there's no point in doing it at Celtic Park when you're trying to get behind the team. I think Neil Lennon's policy is we have to look at the results yesterday and the results today. No one kind of took advantage of Celtic's draw. Dundee United didn't take advantage of it. Hearts didn't do it today. So there's really no pressure. We should counter this league. We can drop points after Europe. I have no problem with that. And to bring, and as Conor and yourself has alluded to, we had to bring these youngsters in. We have to give them a try because in my opinion, there's a critical age between 18 and 21 where young guys need to be playing. And if they're not playing, then I don't think, rarely do you see them progress as a successful footballer. And there's a number of young guys at Celtic who I think could become first teamers. Tony Watt, young Tarzik. So it's important to get them in. I think young Tarzik had a great game yesterday. He's very tidy there. His passing's crisp. I think he could add a little bit of nastiness to his play, but he's a good technical player. And the more we see of him, the better. I mean, I don't see the point in not playing him at home, against teams that we are confident of beating. Unfortunately, yesterday we should have won 5 or 6 yesterday by half time, but it just didn't work out.
I mean, that was going to be my next point. Lennon, a couple of weeks ago, I think it was at the Ross County game. After when we got the draw, he turned around and said, "Look, it was a draw, but our team created a massive chances." And he says, "If we bring those chances into the Champions League with us, we'll be all right." And the Celtic players must have hit the post and bar 4, maybe 5 times yesterday. So is it just an experience, and that the sharper boots will come as the season goes on, or are we missing something? Is there an extra bit of coaching needed, with strike and play, or what?
No, I think you're reading too much into it. Just one of those days where we did everything right but put the ball in the back of the net. I mean, I'd be more concerned if it was like Strackenier and we're passing sideways and not creating anything, with no shots on target till 85th minute. With absolutely abundance of chances. Unfortunately, we didn't convert them. Why did we not convert them? Well, Hooper hit the crossbar where a cracker, a few other boys hit the post. It's just one of those days, and I think we're reading too much into it.
Some bad misses as well, John. Some bad misses as well. I mean, are we going to say the fact that Paddy McCourt doesn't play every week, and that's how he dragged that shot wide when he's beat the world? We've missed some bad chances. We've missed some bad chances. We've got to take it. And I think the goals we gave away were pretty bad. But no, you're on the button. You're on the button, mate. I just think these things will come, and another day you're walloping them. So John's on the ball, and I apologise for cutting him off here, but John's on the ball. We're creating chances. That's always a good thing.
Well, what about Paddy McCourt? Hold on, John, because Scott, we've sort of dealt with the striking bit, but we're talking about general play, really. What about Paddy McCourt then, Scott? I mean, you mentioned him there. I saw him getting dogs abuse as well on the internet, and I really, really genuinely couldn't understand it. He seemed to have a solid game. He was subbed as usual, sort of around the hour mark. And as you say, he did miss a guilt edge chance, but at the end of the day, he made it for himself.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, we were laughing that he should have carried on running just into the net.
Yeah, he just run right through. But a player, particularly in a position like midfield, is it not the case where you really do need a couple of games to get yourself, up to speed in your position and, feel a bit sharper? Paddy hadn't started a match in 18 months or something until recently. So, what's your thoughts?
Both things have got merit, haven't they? I mean, he started last week, and at times he finds himself. He kind of disappears in a game. Last week at times against Inverness, I felt he was floating into the game, and yesterday would have been the same as well. I don't know if that's just because of himself, and by that I mean because we're used to Paddy McCourt coming on and scoring a wonder goal, and basically that's what you remember of him, or a great pass. He didn't give the ball away. He helped the young guys in the team. I don't think he was particularly bad. I mean, what if the guy doesn't score a goal where he skins 40 players, he gets dropped? I think he had a solid game, just as you say. I wouldn't go mental about him. I wouldn't be sitting here going Paddy was outstanding, but at no junction did Paddy McCourt cost us anything yesterday.
Yeah, I think people.
He sticks that in the poke and all. You're sitting here going, "Aye, Big Paddy's won us a game," because I think was it 1 each at that point, or maybe 2.
Yeah, no, I think it was drawn anyway at that point. Conor, what's your thoughts about that general position? Paddy has been asked to play, I suppose taking on the role of other injured players. That's really why he's getting the start.
Yeah, we sort of have to question, what's this, his 3rd season, and he's probably one of the most experienced in terms of age, and to be honest, he's a bit of a journeyman through England and Irish football, whatever, and you wouldn't have thought yesterday was a big test to him really, and his ability from what we know he can do. So he hasn't really progressed, I don't think, especially in the last season. I think he's sort of stagnated at a level where he comes on, he might do something spectacular, as Scott says, maybe once every 15 minutes, and sort of keeps his head above water. But for me, I think you'll see less of him as the season goes on, and other players will come to the fore, because if he hasn't really grabbed his opportunity in the first team now, and even when he was playing well, Lennon didn't really trust him. But I suppose there was other things on the agenda then as well, chasing down a league, and sometimes you can't accommodate a player of his stature. But from what you are saying, he didn't do anything wrong, but he didn't really take the game by the scruff of the neck either. So it's a position, you're sort of hoping, and we can talk about moving on to the new signings in a little bit, that maybe this guy from Getafe, he might be able to play that link role as well. So it'd just be interesting to see what happens going forward in the season.
Incidentally, can I ask, was Wanyama injured?
He said he had his thigh strain.
Okay.
He's been carrying it a few weeks apparently.
Right.
So again, this is another thing that I just jotted down here, and was mentioned by Richie about 2 weeks ago, and it's back to injuries. Like, what's going on? Because that's nearly a first team out with injuries. So something seriously going wrong.
Well, it was a first team. It was 11 players.
Yeah, well, it's crazy. So
Almost sacked our doctor apparently.
Yeah,
I don't think a doctor be responsible for training and conditioning.
Well, this was what I was getting at, Conor. I was asking last week: is there some issue that we're missing here? The regularity and frequency of injuries that seem to be occurring.
Was it not last season that he abandoned Lennoxtown to move back to Barrowfield until the injuries cleared up? So obviously that issue, whether it's the ground or whether it's the type of training they're doing, or if they've been overtrained at the moment, but it's not for the amount of games they're playing. Surely, these guys are professionals. You're not supposed to lose fitness. You're supposed to be at your peak condition as a professional. So the number of injuries will be quite worrying. Now,
but it seems to be. But it also seems to be it's not just the number of injuries; it's really the type. There doesn't seem to be too many injuries coming from heavy playing the pitch. It's not people getting done or
Yep.
So I was watching one of the games today. I forget which one, maybe in the Liverpool match. But you saw one of the players going over on his ankle. Really bad injury. And you're thinking that's not happening at Celtic. It doesn't seem to be those types of injuries. It's all niggly stuff that's carrying on or undiagnosed. John, what's your thoughts? Is there something we're missing?
I'll tell you one thing, Marty. This time last year as well, we had a rig of injuries at early start of the season as well. If you recall, we didn't start particularly well the season last season. But part of that is we had a rig of injuries and the team wasn't a full side. So, like Conor says, I've asked this question before. I do have concerns that there's something broke. Obviously, we don't have the insider knowledge of the inner workings of training up in Lennoxtown, but whether it could be the ground or the training methods they're employing, or the people who are responsible for training them. I don't know. I know we used to have the Gregory DuPont, but he's gone now, and we seem to be a lot fitter back then. So maybe it's something that needs looked at. I really don't know, but it's strange that we have so many players out, and as you said, they're like silly little injuries, and a few of them are occurring during training. I know the likes of Spud Murphy and stuff got injured playing training. So, and that. But I don't.
But sorry for cutting across you, John. I don't believe Lennon. At the end of last season, he did a little mini tour of Europe, going around a couple of clubs. I think he was at Lille. Was that correct? Where he was studying training methods. So, the guy's not stupid in his approach to football. So, there's something underlying. Whether the club are not backing him up, from the administrative or the support network that he needs to run the first team. Now, I know there's a debate about having a full-time doctor. Maybe that's a topic we can bring up again. But that may sort of provide some little inside information that if a doctor's not deemed to be a full-time requirement at the club, well then is a proper fitness and conditioning coach, or are they really actually investing the time and effort into sort of looking at the training methods? Because it's fine and well that we're sitting here saying, on one hand, the crowd were, they need to wise up at a 2-2 draw, especially after qualifying for the Champions League, and we're resting some niggles because we need these players fit for the groups. But the other thing is, in the back of my mind, is that if these injuries are continuing, like you're going to roll up into a game maybe against Barcelona, and with all these young guys having to make an impact or a contribution, and you're going to get annihilated. So, either sort them out and they're only niggles, or there's something more at play.
Tell you one thing, Conor, the Scott Brown injury is kind of a big, massive concern. Lennon says it's a degenerative hip injury, which I wasn't really keen on that word being used, but it seems to be that he's got serious issues with his hip. So whether it's going to impact, and Lennon was actually alluding to the fact that he might just play him in Europe.
Yeah, that'd cheat you, John, wouldn't it?
Well, I mean, I'm not as big as fan, but I'm concerned about the fact that we might have, pardon my French, 15 million on the guy, and we'll never get a return on him if he's got some sort of degenerative injury that we can't even sell him on.
Well, we won't. I mean, he's clearly been identified that he has an injury that will never go away. I mean, I was reading up on it earlier on today when I heard the news, and I was sort of similar as yourself. Hands up, I'm not the guy's greatest fan, but by God, I wouldn't wish that an injury on a footballer. It's clearly we're talking hip replacement time. When he finishes, he's taking the cortisone injections, which never helps. And my attitude was, I heard Lennon saying, we might break his training during the week. Maybe not train him at all and let him play. And you're like, Jesus Christ, let the fella rest. He clearly needs rest. Let him sit out the Champions League thing and bring him back at Christmas time. Scott, what's your thoughts are being a football man yourself?
I've no opinion on it, lads. Honestly, instead of sitting here, we might as well tweet Neil Lennon, because you're just speculating on everything. God knows. I don't know anything about how they're training and stuff.
But you have an opinion on the number of injuries we have. And there's no point in tweeting Neil Lennon because he won't reply.
But there's no use sitting speculating.
If you got a picture of a bird.
There's no use speculating that the grun's too hard or they're running too hard. That's the idea.
Well, that's all for tonight from the Temporary Stand podcast. Thanks very much.
Scott doesn't give it.
You've been beautiful. He's been
Scott doesn't care.
Of course,
you don't care that we have 11 first-team players out injured.
Of course I care. But see, to be honest,
you can't speculate.
But it's totally speculation.
Exactly, speculate.
All right. They've been staying up too late watching dirty films, right? That's what happened. Well, it's as crazy as what you guys are saying. Move on. Let's talk about the goals they're conceding.
I heard Joe Ledley got injured by putting Post-its in somebody's car.
Damn tootin'.
Very good, Conor.
Stokes isn't injured. He's just been doing that for 3 weeks.
Exactly.
Here, guys, I'd just like to make a point that all this extra training Scott's doing is making him a little bit angry. He's turning into the Hulk.
I think he needs some sugar.
Less of the in-jokes, folks, please. Scott, you wanted to move on to the goals. Goal.
One goal in particular.
Okay, but can I start with the first goal then? Because the lusty goal looked like it was something yet again like Mulgrews a couple of weeks ago, directly off the training ground. McCourt skipped the ball right into the box. He made the run, and then it went.
Cracker. Well done.
Next, the second goal.
Dumpling. Every bit of kudos I was going to give him for that first goal, which is a smashing finish, I'm blaming Lustig. Right? I don't care if Fraser Foster says my ball, whatever. I don't care. A centre-half clears that. Every day of the week, a real centre-half clears that. And Neil Lennon must be sitting there going, well, that's what happens when you put a full-back into centre-back. And I even say that Charlie Mulgrew might have done the exact same thing. And I'm not criticising either one of them in terms of how they are as players, but I'm kind of hoping Efe Ambrose is a proper centre-half. And I don't even mean that the boy's gone. I tell you what, I even think Kelvin Wilson would have cleared that. There's somebody up your arse. You've got the ball in front of you. Clear it. Just wallop it.
Or what about even protecting the ball
from
the attacker?
Forget protecting the ball. Forget clear that. Even if in doubt, get it out.
I mean, it's a cardinal sin for any central defender to be letting a ball bounce in the box.
100%.
Because you're giving the opposition player time to get round you or whatever, or to pressurize your keeper, which is really what happened. Foster sort of hit himself. Isn't that right?
Yep. Aye.
Well, I think about it was 85% Lustig's fault and 15% Foster's fault. In my opinion, that goal.
Eh,
I thought, well, obviously he could have cleared it the first time, but he didn't clear it. And if he wasn't going to clear it, he should have protected the ball from the player, and he didn't do that either. So he gets the vast majority of the blame, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Right. I blame him for it. I know other people will look at it that the keeper shouted. I don't know if the keeper shouted. I know a load of guys will sit and will argue with this and hopefully they fling it on Twitter. And again, it's my opinion. I think a real centre half clears that and then takes a shouting, and then you clean up the next. That's my opinion.
Well, no, I'm a Scot. Just to move on then to the next goal, which was the own goal from McPake from Hibs, but Lustig actually, fair play to him, was in and about there creating a bit of havoc.
Yep. Well done.
So credit to him for that. So then that takes us to the final goal then, which to me was sort of a comedy of errors between four players. I don't know, John, did you have what's your views on it? It seems to me it started with Matthews at the edge of the box, but with maybe two.
I think it starts and finishes where Matthews. The guy kind of made as well say nutmegged him, but it was.
Did he not make him?
Well, sort of. It kind of bounced off his leg. But I mean, Matthews was kind of like a derisory attempt to tackle him. It was like he was half-assed. So I think Matthews takes all the blame for that as well.
But what about a keeper letting the ball go under him like that? I mean, and there was also a defender between Foster and the attacker. I think I might have been Lustig again.
Yeah, it was a soft goal. Both goals were very soft. So was our second goal from his Hibs perspective. They were kind of all soft goals. So they were. So wasn't a great day at the office second half. Just one of those games.
Somebody said to me earlier on, and it's a hell of a point. You're sitting there in the first half, and it's that easy. It really is that easy. Hooper's had that smashing header off the post. Who was it hit the bar? Was it Watt hit the bar?
Hooper.
No, I'm sure it hit the bar.
Hooper again, and we're sitting there, and I don't mean to be cheeky, but you're talking away. You're sitting here going, this would be 4 or 5, right? And the way Celtic were playing, it was comfortable. When Yama goes off, it's not that comfortable. And again, we can even say when Yama went off, but it's stupid mistakes, just as John says. It's soft goals we're giving away. On another day, you're battering them, really.
Fair enough. Is there any of us want to add about the game, or can we move on? It doesn't seem to be the type of game that's going to stick in the memory for anything.
We're still top of the league, and we've still got a game in hand. There you go.
Still unbeaten.
Unbeaten. There you go, Conor. Well said.
Fair enough. Okay, well, we'll draw this first part of the podcast to a close, and we'll move on then to part 2 and have a wee look at the Champions League draw. Okay, folks, you're moving on to part 2, and I just need to correct Scott there from his last comment. We're not top of the league, it's Motherwell at the minute, but fortunately Celtic have a game in hand, and we're only a point behind. Okay, lads, we're going to go ahead and look a wee bit ahead now. I suppose look back while looking ahead. The Champions League draw was at the end of the week. Everybody was sort of rubbing their hands together in anticipation. But Conor, I suppose it's a mark of how well Celtic have done in Europe over the past sort of 10 years that it was a bit of an anticlimax actually when the names came out of the hat, because they were all teams that we sort of saw in recent seasons.
The first 2 words I was going to say was anticlimax, but then tinge with excitement as well. I think everybody the support of themselves built up that we'd meet a new opposition, and there'd be an opportunity for the fans to travel to new cities and towns in Europe, facing different challenges. I suppose Benfica, from our last, I think under Strachan, when Dortmund Miller scored a couple of goals for us, and Calamity Caldwell had the crack over in Lisbon from that game, and then Barcelona over the years between the UEFA Cup and the Champions League with Martin O'Neill and Hendricks coming back to our qualification against Spartak and the return of Aidan McGeady. So yeah, there's points to be won, I think, in that group, but they'll be against Spartak and they'll be against Benfica, and it could be at home. I suppose the way I'd be looking at it, if you could claim 6 points at home and then hopefully get a draw from the other three, it may be enough to guarantee you football after Christmas.
John, what was your thoughts on the draw?
Same old. Obviously delighted to be in the Champions League itself. It seems to be a long time since we were there. However, the draw they're all known quantities in terms of playing before, so there's nothing really too much exciting about that. But I would expect Celtic to take something from the home games against Benfica and Spartak Moscow. Worst case scenario, draw. Best case scenario, a win. But I wouldn't be confident on our travels at all.
Fair enough. Scott, when you saw the draw, I think you were raging. Would that be fair?
Gutted, man. 10 years we've been talking about doing a conga in the Barnabout. Me and my mates, we've been talking about this conga, and I'll tell you, there's dust on the conga now. On one hand, just to reiterate what you guys have said, you're looking to go somewhere different. You don't want to go back to Milan, Manchester, Barcelona, Benfica. You don't really want to go back here, and it's a kind of anticlimax. But then you look at it in a sporting draw. Is it the worst? By God, it's certainly not the worst. I do think we've got to have a wee check on reality a wee bit with regards Benfica. Yeah. Benfica were very impressive last year in the Champions League, and Chelsea, on their way to winning the bloody thing, put out Benfica. But I remember Benfica ripping them a new one at their own midden. But we're good enough. We're good enough to get something for it. The Celtics support again have got a big part to play. Spartak Moscow, I saw Big Pierre tweeting that he didn't fancy them much. He said Feyenoord, but Ferencvaros, bloody two teams. What's their name?
Fenerbahce.
Were put out by a very ordinary team. So I mean, you're right. The Barcelona one's off. If you get anything out of two of them, happy days. There's a lot of pressure on our first game, the home game against Benfica. A lot of pressure on that because, again, as Johnser says, there seems to be an expectancy because we beat them under Stratton that we should really. I mean, they topped that group last year with Bal and Man United in the Champions League group. It's we just need to be wary.
We lost a few players, though, Scott.
Say again, Paul.
They have lost a few players.
Well, I was actually going to bring Conor in there because Conor had mentioned before we came on there that he had been sort of watching some of the transfer movements and shakings. But have those players actually gone there, Angie? Or what's the latest?
Seems to be they've got a bid in for 3 of the players for €90 million, and the Russian transfer window doesn't close until Thursday. So potentially they could lose 3 players. Now there's only 2 of them that I'd recognise is the Gatan and Vistel from Belgium, and Gatan's Argentinian. The other guy, his name escapes me at the moment, but I'm not quite sure. It was also alluded to the fact that Benfica are heavily in debt, and that it could be possible that the three of them move to ease the debt. But 90 million, wow, that far outweigh anything that earn in the Champions League. But I don't know. I'm not that close to how Benfica have been run over the years. They obviously seem to have got their house in order, and they seem to be challenging. Finished second last year in the Portuguese league, and as Scott said, quarter-finalists, and they look a decent play. They look a decent team, but they've also lost the other guy to was it Chelsea? Man City. Sorry, it was Man City last Friday night. So they're probably weakened. I'm not quite sure if they've replaced them. But yeah, definitely. There's a few players still there that we'd Lewis Sau, the centre back, and Cardozo still there as well. And
big pudding star. He was some player.
Yeah, Aymar is still there, and their coach is called Jesus. So what hope do you have?
We're going to nail him to a cross at the end of it. Then happy day. John, bringing in Jesus, or have you been rattling rosy breeds out for our prospects in the Champions League?
Not quite. I mean, to be honest, I think it's just an adventure. I'm just happy to be there, but I don't want us to embarrass ourselves. I think we need to take it serious. We need to have a real good go of it. If the cards don't fall our way, then so be it. But I'd just be happy if we give it a real good go and see what happens.
Give it a bash.
Scott, I could hear you biting your tongue there when he said about being happy to be there.
Well, right, I've checked myself in for my wee rant to you last week. Yeah, right. We need to know our place. We're coming into this as fourth seeds. I've got a feeling people are underestimating our opponents a bit, which makes no odds to the Celtic team, because if they guys go out with the proper attitude, it really doesn't matter with me and Conor sitting snigger about Benfica and Jesus, right? But I think it was like when Ireland went to the European Champions, the European Championship, and everybody was going, we're just happy to be there. And see when you get skited off Croatia, everybody gave up the ghost of what was the point? And I've got to admit, I don't think there was enough finger pointing. I agree with Roy Keane to an extent. There's not enough. They've got to be prepared. It's one thing going and getting outclassed. It's another thing going and being unprepared. And I felt Ireland at that tournament was unprepared, and it would be scandalous if Celtic get into this unprepared. I don't think they will. I really don't think they will. But again, coming back to what you guys were saying, there's got to be some sort of realism. I mean, we're going to come onto the transfer window, and that does show up where Celtic are operating at. We're going to give a good account ourselves. I said to you guys during the week, I've got three things in my mind that I want for the Champions League at the end of this process. Whatever happens, should we get into Europa, should we qualify, should we come dead last, I want to see us rid of this away hoodoo thing. I want shot of that. I want to see us actually playing a wee bit more football, a wee bit more passing control. If the boy Twarzic's going to be a big player in our team, I'd like to see him impress and keep a hold of the ball and look as if we can take a lead, that we're not going to get away with stupid things.
He will be playing the Champions League, Scott.
I don't know. Why not, mate? Why not?
But hold on, just to pick you up on what you said there, Scott, that you're hoping for the away. We've just come through a qualifying draw with 4 wins. Mm-hmm. And you're saying there that you want this away day hoodoo sort of lifted. Mate, if we look back over the last 10 years, we've played all these 3 teams. We've got a draw in Barcelona at one stage. We've got a draw in Moscow at one stage. Where do you feel the win, if it's coming, will come in this round?
You've got to look at Spartak Moscow. Spartak Moscow were the weakest team in that pot. I think Benfica maybe, but I think Spartak Moscow, as you rightly said, we went to Spartak Moscow on a plastic pitch, and we got a respectable 1 each draw. Why not? Can we not go there and win? I want to see it go on. I want to see it. See, our record in qualifying away from home isn't that bad, and in the Europa League it's not that bad as well. But in the Champions League, we're going to watch Champions League weekly, and they're going to bring up the fact that Celtic have never won away in the Champions League. Never. Yeah.
As bad as the Olympiacos.
And I would like to see it. I would like to see it cleared. I would like to see us get the first one, get it, and then it doesn't matter. It really does, because it doesn't matter as it stands, but it's got to get flung back in your face. And these guys don't deserve it flung back in their face, because it's nothing to do with them. It's not their legacy.
John, just to bring you in there, what's your thoughts?
Well, I agree with Scott and Conor. I'd love to see the monkey offer back in terms of that Champions League away win. I do think Lennon's kind of learnt to keep it for his teams to be a little bit more patient in Europe away from home. Although the quality of opposition is somewhat different, and it will be different in the Champions League, but there is glimmers of hope there in terms of that we can soak up the pressure and do the counter-attacking football, because counter-attacking football is the only way to play away from home. We see it all the time where United and teams like that, where they sit back, they get battered, and then they go up.
Listen, guys, we played Helsingborg and they battered us, seriously. You know what I mean? And a better team, if that happened in Moscow, you'd be 4-0 down. Absolutely. They'll be clinical. They'll finish you off. You wouldn't even imagine what would happen in Barcelona, because that's nightmare. And Benfica do exactly the same. So let's not kid ourselves on. Even though we won 4 in the bounce in qualification, we rode our luck in both away games. It has to be said. I know Helsinki had 1 or 2 chances and a bit of pressure, but we soaked that up. But in Helsingborg, it was ridiculous at times. But again, we said the team were moving on slightly because they weathered that and then they picked their opportunities really well. But you still couldn't be going into Champions League, especially the quality opposition, and go, we're going to get that monkey off our back and get that away win in any of those destinations. I just can't see. I just can't see it unless the players that have come in, come in, can actually bring us up a level. And actually get us playing in a different way, and if we're a little bit more solid as a unit, and Lennon has us, set up in a particular way on the counter that we actually sort of exploit. The Samaras has been a revelation for us, I suppose, this season. So have him in that similar type of form and see what this new lad Fedor's like. Maybe he'll bring us on an extra level as well. But let's not kid ourselves away from home, guys, because I still don't see it. I don't think we're strong enough defensively, and I don't think we've, as Scott said, we're not as good as we, sometimes we think we are.
Definitely not. But see the pressure that was on the whole club.
Oh, yes,
the pressure was on in the last 2 rounds. I was talking to somebody again today, and they said to me that the figures weren't good without Champions League. There was going to be a big shock. I mean, there was guys alluding to it on Twitter, guys alluding to it in the huddle board, and I think the Champions League has kind of saved the club to an extent. I'm kind of over dramatising it, obviously, but the Champions League and the money coming in. I mean, what I was led to believe is that when Yama was definitely jolted off, had we failed to get past Helsingborg or Helsinki. So the fact is we're in the Champions League, and I'll tell you what, the Benfica home game, there's a lot of pressure on that. Just as I said a minute ago, there's a lot of pressure on that. If we beat Benfica at home, it takes off a whole load of pressure. It just means you're going
to pick you up on the pressure aspect of it, Scott. You were saying earlier on about we need to know our place. We're seated 4th in the group, but I remember being in this position when O'Neill was here. And we came out with 9 points, and I think we were the only team in the Champions League that year who didn't progress with the 9 points.
Yeah, so, but look at the team, Martin. Look at the team. Jesus, let's just remember we were very lucky in the team we had at that time. Sutton, Thompson, Lennon, Henrik, even big Johan at the back. Like, they were seasoned internationals, and we were blessed to having Larsson at the time, who could always pick us out a goal. Hartson, Lubo. We had a take like those guys. I still say man for man are better than what we have at the moment.
Well, fair enough. But if you look back there a couple of years ago, we got through to the last 16 twice with the likes of Barry Robson and Hartley and people like that. So there's clearly, it's to me, it's more of an organisational thing. If you get your men together and you organise them as best you can, you've got a chance.
I'd never be worried about us at home. I think that's entirely different. I suppose against Barcelona it'll be different, but at home against Benfica and Spartak, I'd be expecting. As a fan, I'd want us to go out and take those games by the scruff of the neck and actually try and go for the 3 points in each of those games. It's just that we have to then remove ourselves from the home and look at the away fixtures, and the points I alluded to previously, I think still stand in my opinion.
It was a hope I said, Connor, in fairness to me. It was a hope I said I would like to get rid of it. And you've just...
But there's no evidence. There's no evidence to suggest it. That's all I'm saying.
We're all hoping with you, Scotty. I can assure you. John, you've been very quiet there and very patient. I know you're struggling with vertigo this week. Have you any other thoughts on the Champions League draw before we move on?
I don't really have any real thoughts in terms of what's anything different to what's already been said. I think Celtic fans need to enjoy it, and they haven't came around these Champions League nights for a long time, so it's up to Celtic fans to get behind the team, enjoy it, and hopefully bring home the points and actually more money, because success breeds success. So if we can get a good run in it, and God spurs us, we'll get into Europe after Christmas. If we finish third, then it's even more money into the coffers, because the SPL is going to be grim this year. Personally speaking, that's my belief. We're already seeing crowds down at Celtic. I think people will that won't be exciting. So Europe is where it's at, and as I said in a few podcasts back, Europe's everything for us this season. So let's give it a real good go, get behind the team, and you never know what happens.
You sound like Jack Charlton.
I was just about to say it. Give it a life check.
And but that's what we need, Scott. We have to have. I know what Connor's saying that prior form and history is kind of against us. But I mean, if you can't hope, what can you do? You have to have faith in the players. I think hopefully, as long as we don't let ourselves down and we try, is all I can ask for from Celtic. And hopefully we'll do the team does us proud. And why not have a go? Because worse teams than us have qualified and made progress. Look at that Chelsea team that won it. I mean, Jesus Christ, the luck they carried in defensive football. So it shows you if you're tight, it's half a battle.
There's also belief. You need to believe that you're going to be lucky,
Okay.
Come here. Just before we move on, Scott saying about disastrous results, right? So what did you hear? So I heard 7 million was the figure that we were in debt. So we saved 4 million in wages. We sold Key for 6.5 allegedly, and we've qualified for the Champions League, which is automatic 15 million plus gate receipts and plus everything else that goes with it. So where's this black hole?
I don't know, mate. That's what I'm getting to.
So it's more scaremongering.
I don't think it's scaremongering.
Peter Lawwell kind of releases these rumours to put the fear into Celtic fans to kind of get them on side. It's propaganda, and I'm with Connor. I don't believe it for 1 minute.
Yeah, we'll see the figures, won't we?
Well, no, I'm pretty sure there would have been a hole last year, absolutely.
Thanks, Marty.
The black hole of Rangers not being there was 4 million, right? And all the players that left, somebody totted up the figures previously.
We spoke about this last week, aye.
Yeah, we spoke about it. We counted it out, but I'm sure there was a hole of some sort. But I'm inclined to agree that they were pushing the envelope to try and get people to part with their hard-earned, so they were letting this out. I mean, the accounts are always released about the 15th of August.
So we're moving on now to talk about the signings and.
Yeah, hold on. Let me finish.
I've got a view on that.
You know the host, Connor.
Wait, let me finish this section first. Thanks very much. So I usually print the things out and go to the bog and have a read, for a couple of hours, and it hasn't happened this year, and that's odd. It's a PLC; they have to release their documents in a timely manner, timely fashion. So it's very odd to see why the delay. They're clearly trying to tidy up something, so maybe things just don't look as bad or whatever. But that's by the by, because it's the annual accounts run until April. Okay, listen, we're gonna pull the curtain down on the Champions League chat, and we're gonna move along to look at the very fun and exciting events of the last day of the transfer window. Okay, moving on to part 3 of the podcast, and it was great crack on Friday evening. It wasn't much fun on Friday morning, but as the juices started to flow and the wheels started to turn as the day went on, it became a very, very fun day. And at the end of it, we had brought in an extra 4 players to the squad. We had brought in Miku from Levante. We had brought in F.A. Ambrose from FC Ashdod in Palestine. We brought in late on in the night. We were very surprised to find out that a third keeper had been brought in from Nantes, who is a Slovakian called Libos. Can you say that surname for me again, Scott, please? Lubos
Kamina.
Kamina, thank you. And last but not least, post-transfer deadline and with a lot of mirth attached to it, we also brought in Lassad, who's a 26-year-old, 6'2" player from Deportivo La Coruña. John, you were panicking on Friday morning and shouting the odds. By the end of Friday night, were you fairly happy with the comings and goings?
Fairly happy. I wouldn't, if it was marking out of 10, I would have given it a 6.5. Don't know anything about this guy Ambrose. I'm hoping it's another Victor Wanyama situation. Don't really know much about Nicolas Fedor either, if I'm being honest. Other what I've read over the weekend about him, it certainly wasn't a player who was on my radar in any such way. Or the sad Nui, certainly wasn't on my radar. I'm looking at their stats on Wikipedia, and they've got a goal scoring ratio of kind of 1-4. They're both tall players. They both seem to be quick players. So, and Fedor in particular has got a reputation for playing counter-attacking football, where Venezuela, where they launch a ball to him and he holds it up well and has got pace. So hopefully they're the type of players that I would say we need, especially in the left-hand side. So we're the sad. So they'll give us certainly a different dimension than what we had, because up front I think Stokes being out, Hooper, there's too much pressure on Hooper to be the main striker. He do a bit of competition as well, because sometimes I think he rests on his laurels a wee little bit. So hopefully these two guys come in and put pressure on the existing partnership and give us an alternative, especially away from home.
Fair enough. Scott, to bring you in, you mentioned Ambrose earlier on. Is he going to be the solution to our sort of backline issues?
What do you think I'm going to say? I have no idea.
No idea.
Right, I want to see what we're bringing in. As much as I appreciate John and his Wikipedia, Tim Vickery and Andy Brasso on the World Phone-In last week were talking about him. And is that sorry for this weekend? We're talking about him and we're saying that they reckon he's the signing of the deadline, which is good enough for me. Tim Vickery.
Hold on. What do you mean by that?
Well, they asked the question, who do you think the signing of this summer has been? Of the last day of the transfer had been.
They thought he was
and the two of them said, if you get this guy going, you've cracked it. He says, but Tim Vickery seemed to stress that getting the guy. He says he watches games and he thinks the boy just needs a cracker up his arse, know what I mean, and get him going. But he says if we get him going, we've got a superstar on our hands.
Right. Conor, did you see Ambrose as he was paraded out in front of Celtic Park?
Yeah, I did. It was quite funny with the poodle and all that. Yeah.
Did you hear the wee specky guy?
There's one or two right through him, was it? Yeah.
The wee specky guy was saying, "Through Messi, right through him," and the wee guy at the back was shouting, "Huns are zombies."
so getting back to what Scott said, that sounds promising, but I couldn't offer anything more about the guy playing in Israel. Don't think I've seen an Israeli league game ever in my life, so yeah, I can't comment, and I haven't seen enough of Nigeria football either to comment on what he's like nationally. I think the player that we'll all be looking to is Miku. I think he's the one with form. He's the one playing in a top division. He's the one scoring the goals against the top teams in Serie A. So he's the one that we should be really excited about. Overall, the guy that we got from Deportivo La Coruña seems like a punt, but according to Lennon and everything he said over the weekend, he'd been tracked for some time. Why we left it, if he was out of contract in May, June, did we leave it to the last day of the season, or even on Saturday saying the guy is beyond me? Maybe again it's down to budget. He was looking too much, and maybe that deal was in the pipeline for a long time. Overall, it's not what we need going into the Champions League. Miku apart, the others are either unknown quantities that could be brilliant, or just punts in the dark, a bit like the guy from Trabzonspor last year who never got a look in. So that's where I sit with that.
So Scott, just to re-clarify, you were actually Tim Vickery and Andy Brassel had identified Miku as the player.
Yeah.
Right. So that they were very. They thought he was the signing of the deadline day.
Yeah.
Well,
excellent. Fair enough. John, to bring you in there, John, I just wanted to clarify. Generally, we had sat over the last couple of months and identified positions front and back that we needed players for. Are you generally happy that Lennon went out and did his best to get those positions organised?
Well, yeah, I'm glad that we have someone in the positions, and those key positions, centre back and centre forward. But the key thing will be whether they're the right guys. Certainly, the money spent hasn't been big money, so they're they're cheap punts. But to be fair to John Park and Lennon, they've got a little bit of recent history of unearthing cheap but effective players. So I'm hoping that there. My mate Mark is in Nigeria, and he was reading up on the various Nigerian forums about Ambrose, and a lot of guys in the forums were saying that he's an intelligent player. There's one or two saying he was donkey, but the general gist of it was that it was positive. So I'm hoping that he's a good solid defender and gives us another option, because we're kind of short at the back with just really Rodney, Wilson and Mulgrew can be trusted, and even then, if there's question marks over all three, if we're brutally honest.
Yeah, I have no doubt that, especially with the injury situation, all of them are going to see football. But Scott, to go back on you about Miku, saying that he, and reflecting that he was the signing of the window, why did Getafe let him go?
I don't know. I really don't know. We were asking the same question. All the rumours seem to be that Swansea had tried for him, and they were priced out of the market. Somebody else would offer £4 million, and then they sign somebody and they release him to go on loan with a chance of signing him at the end of it. I don't know. To be perfectly honest, I don't know. I really don't know the ins and outs of football teams and how they work, and I don't know.
And Conor, you had mentioned, I suppose, of some of the successes of John Park bringing people like Wanyama from Scandinavia, Kyle from Palestine. Are we assuming that these are going to be ones who come in and step in and do a job for us?
Well, I just hope that we don't think that's because we got lucky with, or maybe it's not luck, maybe it's down to proper scouting, that the players that you've mentioned have been huge successes for us. But then also, you throw in the likes of Brozic from Trabzonspor. That was the most bizarre sort of deal I've seen in the last while, and that turned out to be a non-event for us. So I want Celtic to do well, like every other supporter, and you want to go into the Champions League giving yourself a shout, and you want that sort of marquee signing that's going to give the whole club a lift going into those games. As we say, Miku seems to be the guy that we will be looking towards, because he seems to have form in the top league, but the others you couldn't account for them, or you couldn't stand by them. Ambrose could turn out to be an absolute genius, a fantastic signing from Israel, and we'll go again maybe in a season's time going, that was brilliant scouting and well done, Celtic. But it's hard to know going into the Champions League if these guys got form that they can actually play at that level and bring the club forward, to meet the aims of what we're talking about in this podcast, getting that win away from home. But I'd be excited about Miku and reserved about the others, I have to say.
But
fair enough. And you raised Pavel Bruzek. He was another final day move. He's not like Ivo Huelva, so I mean that probably says it all. John, you wanted to come in?
Sorry. Yeah, just on that point what Conor's making regarding these guys. They're unknown quantities. That's the thing. That's the market Celtic are operating in now. What's happening now is Celtic are trying to get players who are just bubbling under the radar of other clubs, where clubs are undecided whether these guys are a real deal or not, and so clubs with more money, in my opinion, are holding off because they can afford to take the time to see if these guys are going to be the players they are. Where Celtic have to get in there, and it's near enough a 50-50 chance we're taking. Guys like Wanyama worked out perfectly, but other guys like Bangura were an absolute disaster. So we're taking chances on buying these guys just under the radar before clubs in England will give them. Clubs in England are kind of waiting a little bit longer to see if these guys are the real deal, and then paying 5, 6, 7 million for them. Whereas we're kind of getting in there quick 1 million or a quick 2 million and taking our chances. So that's the reality of Celtic working in this day and age, in my opinion.
I think we're taking punts. Okay, Scott, you wanted to come in?
No, I'm kidding. Just reiterating what we've said in the past, and we cracked up for years. We were going for guys like Bullard, and we were going to pay these guys. And Marty, you said a couple of weeks ago, we used to have that one marquee signing, and in recent years the marquee signing never worked for whatever reason, and we're overpaying for guys. This is where we're at, and if some people are kind of getting upset about it, they should calm the head. We're relying on our scout to get us places now, and I think we should give the guys a trust. Just like Conor says, if they work, they work. Bangura was the guy that we highlighted last week. It didn't work. Bro, you take it on the chin, to quote Tony Mowbray. I'm happy enough. The one that I was desperate for personally, it was Del Piero. Del Piero made me excited on Friday. It made me excited.
And just on that, it's funny, I completely forgot about him just because of the other comings and goings. He completely left my mind, but it appears that actually Celtic had went and made some sort of offer, Scott, showing a bit of ambition anyway to bring in, there's arguments about his ability now, but certainly a Beckham-like signing in world football.
Yep. I just didn't think there was any loser if he decided to come to Celtic, right? Because I know for a fact the guy's fit enough to play for Celtic. He gave you that. I know got other guys, and that's their opinion. Other guys didn't fancy it. It made me excited on Friday. I was driving home really excited about it, and I was going, it'd be a brilliant man. It'd be a brilliant man to get. And well done Neil Lennon for going for it. It took a wee bit of balls, because I know guys in the past, we can't get him, so we don't bother. And that's a stupid attitude, I think. You go and ask a question. It's like going up bird, isn't it?
It's interesting. Yeah, it was an interesting take. I don't think he yeah, it would have excited the fans, but then, yeah, maybe for Champions League it would have been great. But I think we set out our stall really that one. We had an offer, and it wasn't probably cash rich enough for him to come to Glasgow. But just want to move back to the Migu signing. It would appear from what Lennon said over the weekend that he was interested in this player a number of months ago, and he tried to get him, but obviously the deal seemed to be out of our reach without the Champions League football. And then a lot of focus was on this Henriksen guy, who then seemed within, I think, the second last day of the transfer window go to Vitesse Arnhem. So it would appear then that with the deal that Celtic have set up, it could be a very clever deal in a way, because they've loaned the player for a year to see, and they probably bumped up his wage. They probably used the fee that they're going to pay for Henriksen and the wages just to throw wages at this guy to see if it'll work out. So if that's the case and they've traded the two of them off, then Lennon has traded promise for ability and Miku. So that could work out really well for us. I'm excited about this guy. I've watched him. A bit of a few clips on him. Funny enough, I watched the game that he scored the goals against Real Madrid last year, but players don't stand out if you're not interested in them. But then I watched it back on YouTube, and the guy seems a very, very clever footballer with a sharp eye for goal. So if Celtic structured the deal in that way and it works out for the parties, and hopefully we'll do well and we'll be in a better financial position, then he could be a really good signing. And I'm encouraged by the comments made by the two tweeters that Scott was following on the World Football podcast. So if we can get this guy playing, he could be a real hit. But overall, yeah, right, I think blue chip signings in the past haven't worked. Gravison was another one, was a big letdown. I can't remember, Janino, all these guys came in with a reputation. Yeah. Yarosik to a point was effective, but wasn't the player that we thought he was. He never really let us down, but never really reached the level that we all got excited about. But the players who were really excited about let us down. Even, I know guys are saying Van Hesselink, he came in with until his injury, and we were all expecting big things from him. Yeah, he didn't really reach that level either. So maybe this is the way we're at. Maybe we're clever. Maybe Lennon and Park deserve kudos in this, but especially with the other three, Lassad, Ambrose, the goalkeeper, we can only assume is there for backup and emergencies. The other two you'd be expecting to come into the first team, but Lassad maybe at a later date, because it seems that his fitness mightn't be up there, considering that he hasn't been training, or I'm sure he's been training, but he's not match fit. So, but Mickey's the guy that I think we'll be looking at.
Conor, you said you watched him on YouTube.
Yeah.
When he scored the 2 goals, did he do that crazy thing with his hand when he scored? When he turns it?
No.
No. Oh, got it.
Yeah, I tell you one thing, guys, that I'm impressed, or I'm kind of excited about. When you get players from Spain, they're usually technically very good. We've seen that in England in the recent last few years, where guys are coming in. A good example is your man Mitu to Swansea, and he's been scoring every week. So I'm kind of excited that most guys who play in the Spanish league are technically able. So, and I think that's part of what we're missing at Celtic. So I'm hopeful on that account.
Fair enough. And again, a lot of rage, it seemed, over the signing of a fucking keeper. Clearly to have, it's crazy, wasn't it? To have 3 good keepers on your books is a good thing. Our people need to chill out. And Scott, you had mentioned last week about Forster and the England situation, and overlooked again.
Good.
You were saying about keep him on his toes, to keep him hungry.
Good.
All right, Scott's tired.
But to come back to what you're saying about the third goalie, you would think they were spending their money. Do you know what I mean? You would think you were taking money out of their pocket to spend on 3 keepers. One of your keeper gets injured, you get into Champions League with a boy on the bench. It's a bit of savvy.
Yeah.
Well done, Lenny.
Absolutely. No, I agree completely. Okay, lads, listen, thanks a million. I have a couple of wee announcements just to make the night. First of all, Johnny Forbes off our own temporary stand ran the great Scottish run today. Fair play to him. He got a time of 1 hour and 57 minutes, which is a fantastic time. And just to say, if anybody out there wants to donate, Johnny's still collecting, and he has a Just Giving page, which is John Forbes, and he's given his money for the NSPCC. So I think everybody on the cast would agree that was a fantastic effort for him, and he's raised a couple of bobs. So good on him there.
Marty.
And as well, Sorry, one of you want to come in there?
Aye, the front of his head was 157, the back of his head was 220.
Marty, I've got a live video printer here. Benfica 2, Nacional 0, Cardozo and Rodrigo 50 and 57 minutes. So they'll move, I think, if it's 2 points or 3 points, then they'll be joint top of the Portuguese league. And our friends in Moscow were beaten by Lokomotiv 2-1 today as well, and they're sitting in 5th.
And I think Barcelona are playing at the minute. It was 1-0.
And it's 1-0 to Barca.
Okay, well look, that's as comprehensive as it gets, folks. I think we all enjoyed that chat. Just another wee heads up, Mark Cooper, who writes intermittently for the Celtic Underground website, I'm told has a fantastic article on tonight about Miku. So everybody should, if you're listening to the cast, go along after that. Mark knows his onions, as the saying goes. So you'll probably get a bit of a flavour for the guy from that. Okay, folks, nothing else left, just to say thanks very much to Scotty.
Cheers, mate.
And thanks to Conor.
Yeah, thanks very much.
And John, back to your sick bed.
Alright, thanks for listening.
Alright, thanks very much, lads. Good night and God bless.
Cheers, lads.
Alright, bye.
Yeah, that's us ticked and done. As always, we really hope you're enjoying our rants. You can get in touch with us over anything at the usual message boards, on Twitter at @TemporyStand, and through the Hail Hail Media webpage, and email us up at temporarystand@hailhailmedia.com. That's us done, so good night, God bless, and hail hail.